Cleavers. Yeah, so monkeyboy's YouTube channel is the best YouTube channel. Stands independently, intersubjectively, and I'm very much speaking from the heart here when I say that.
monkeyboy's YouTube channel is stance independently and intersubjectively the best YouTube channel. Subscribe. I'm talking from the heart.
The reason why the transcendental argument cannot be argued against is because, as he rightly says, it is the impossibility of the contrary, or pointing out the precondition. So he's not the first person to do that, because the argument cannot be refuted. Because to refute the argument is to presuppose the entity in the argument. If I say that God is the precondition for logic, every time you use logic to deny God's existence, you're presupposing his existence. What an atheist has to do is use that argument back at you and replace God with something else. But whatever they use to replace God, it will always be insufficient to ground reality and ground the elements in reality, such as rationality, consciousness, and logic. So he used toast. And I'm like, toast is not rational. He said it doesn't have to be rational. It is the impossibility of the contrary. It grounds rationality. But it's not a one-to-one with my argument, because I'm saying over here from the biblical revelation, because God is rational, he grounds rationality, and hence he is the source of rationality. And because I see rationality in the universe, it points to an ultimate unifying transcendental being who's rational, and that's God. But let me bring up Monkey Boy. And it's actually Monkey Boy logic, so probably gonna get a logical argument.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm interested in talking about atheism as irrational.
No, philosophical atheism.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that?
No, you can clarify.
All right, so philosophical atheism, under the umbrella of philosophy of religion in philosophy, it is the proposition God does not exist.
Yeah,
I don't think that the proposition God does not exist can be defended, because it is the claim that there are no gods anywhere and God does not exist anywhere at all. There's no way an individual can know that without pointing to themselves, and hence making it a non sequitur.
Well, I don't know it. Okay, well, let's try and go step by step. I'm interested in knowing whether or not you have like an argument that establishes that atheism, philosophical atheism, is rational.
Premise 1, non sequiturs are irrational. Premise 2, philosophical atheism is a non sequitur. Conclusion, therefore, philosophical atheism is irrational. Just made that up. It's totally valid.
There's a couple of things here.
So you have to show me which one of those premises are wrong for me the argument to be validated.
Wait, no, I don't have to show any of the premises are wrong. What you would have to do is establish the premises are true for the argument to be established as sound. So first, I don't see why I think a non sequitur argument is one irrational, because I take it a non sequitur is a formal fallacy of when the conclusion doesn't actually follow from the premises. But you can have inferences that are non-ampliative, where the conclusion doesn't follow, right? An example might be an abductive or inductive argument, where if those are not regimented into a deductive structure, those can still be rational whilst they're not, whilst they might be said to be a non sequitur. That's number one.
Okay. I'm going to prove it. Tell me why God does not exist.
Wait, but did you understand what I just said?
No, it went right over my head. Tell me why God doesn't exist.
Well, I just made a point, and look, we can go to whatever you're asking, but I just want you to engage with what's said and why P1 is just false, right?
All right. So I'm going to tell you
why.
Do you
understand? Wait, what you said? You didn't understand what I even said.
I understand portions of it, and I'm going to tell you why I disagree with it.
Well, I want to be clear. Let's get clear. What are the portions you understand first?
You used different categories of reasons why premise 1 is false, or premise 1 can't be true, and so on and so forth. And I disagree, because rationality...
But that's not understanding why I'm saying P1 is false.
Okay. I don't understand it. Can you go over it again for me?
Okay, the point is, are you familiar with what ampliativity is in logic?
No.
Or in rather just, in context of epistemic reasoning? If no, okay, well, Ampliativity is a type of property of an inference where the conclusion follows from the premises. There's also some like background noise, like there's playback I could hear from your audio, but yeah. So basically, there's ampliativity, which is when the conclusion follows from the premises, and then there's non-ampliativity when the type of inference is one where the conclusion doesn't necessarily follow. It's not entailed from the premises, and induction and abductive inferences are understood to be ones that are non-ampliative, right? Just by their nature. In that sense, what you can have is epistemic justification, where the justification provides rationality for the agent to believe some proposition, right? They're epistemically warranted, or they're rational or justified in believing it. But the point is, though they're rational in believing it, the inference might be a non sequitur formally. Oh, you're muted. Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Sorry. Ampliative and non-ampliative. I'm just going to do some reading on that and gather information in my philosophy file so that I can be aware of what that is. It's obvious you don't accept the argument as being valid as to why I think that philosophical atheism is irrational.
No, the argument is valid, but I don't accept either of the premises. Premise one is just false because there's types of epistemic justification that provide rationality for some proposition, whilst the reasonings are ones that are inherently non sequiturs in a formal context.
Okay, so do you think that the proposition God does not exist can be defended?
Yeah.
Okay, can you defend it?
Can I defend the proposition God doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Yeah, but look, I don't want to pivot because right now you produced an argument, and before we move on to my reasons to think atheism is true, I'm trying to understand right now the argument that you've laid out in thinking that philosophical atheism is irrational.
Monkey boy, I don't want to talk about that. I want to hear your reason as to why atheism is true.
So you're just forfeiting the argument?
I am very interested right now to hear your argument as to why atheism is true.
Okay, if you're forfeiting the argument, that's fine. So I can talk about my reasons to think atheism is true. Now, there's types of arguments a priori, like maybe the logical problem of evil is one that targets a range of gods, that those gods can be established to be false. I also take it that these types of views, like there being objects that exist that are not spatially extended, that I take it that those types of commitments are ones that are what philosophers like Mackey would call queer, right? And given that they're queer, we shouldn't be committed to there being things that are ontic or things that exist that are spatially non-extended. That's another thing, the queerness argument. Other ones would just be that, there's like a deprivation of supernatural entities in your inductive space, given, the perceptual theories, the type of theory of perception we have in our background where we capture information sensatorily, right, with the five senses. And if we understand that we attain sensory experiences, or we have experiences via the senses, supernatural entities are understood to be objects that are aspatial, then they're analytically the types of thing, or it's true from that fact, the background fact, how we understand to perceive stuff, to require spatial objects, that we can't perceive them, such that you don't actually have priors about there being any supernatural entities because they're divorced from your experience fundamentally. And if that's true, if we then have the induction that every item in our experience is one that's spatially extended, then that gives us strong reasons to think that natural entities are the types of things that are likely to exist, right? It just integrates better with our background of perceptual theory, right? And we would have to be, in order to accommodate there being supernatural things, we would have to re-engineer a theory of perception where we can have ways of perceiving things that are spatially unextended, right? So those are a couple of reasons.
So you gave three reasons: logical problem of evil, the queerness argument, and spatial object argument, background of perception being an induction for concluding that since we perceive things and we don't perceive God, therefore God doesn't exist.
Yeah, the third one is like a Bayesian type of critique, but yeah, those are my arguments.
Okay, can you go over the queerness argument again?
Yeah, so the queerness argument wants to say something like theories that introduce these strange metaphysical postulates or types of uniquely strange commitments metaphysically are ones that, if they don't introduce an overpowering explanatory benefit, and they would require vast endeavoring metaphysically and epistemically to properly generate these types of theories, that those are the types of things we shouldn't be committed to.
So we should not be committed to concepts that cannot be observed, is what the queerness theory is.
No, it's saying that entities that are metaphysically robust and that they require vastly new information and engineering of theories to properly accommodate them, and they don't introduce relevantly sufficient explanatory benefit, those are the types of things we shouldn't be committed to.
Metaphysical entities that require further explanation for their existence should not be believed, right?
It doesn't have anything to do with requiring explanation for their existence.
Okay, so 3 arguments. Okay. Thank you for your reasons why you think that atheism is true.
If you want, we could talk about the problem of evil. I want to know what your response to that is.
Well, my response to that is, I have a different definition for evil than you probably do. I think that evil is whatever fails to conform to the law of God. God's law does not apply to him, it applies to us. So evil existing is not consistent with God's nature, but is consistent with God's plan, in that he wants evil to exist so that he can use evil for his self-glorification and for his ultimate good. And that's why evil existing does not preclude the existence of the biblical God, or Yahweh. So in my worldview, the logical problem of evil is not a problem. God wants evil to exist, therefore it does.
Okay, we can work with that definition. So we understand evil is to be something that's a deprivation of God's nature. Is that correct?
No, the failure of conformity to God's law.
Okay, the failure to conform to God's law. Okay,
Right.
so evil things are things that fail to conform to God's law. Do we understand God to be omnibenevolent?
Right, yeah, we do.
Does that mean he's opposed to evil things?
No, it doesn't mean he's opposed to evil things.
So what does it mean for God to be all good?
For God to be all good means that God does all things for his own glorification, because he's the ultimate good and the standard of goodness. And it also means that God will use evil for good reasons, or use evil for the ultimate good of his nature and for his glory. That's what it means.
So good is just whatever glorifies God?
Good is whatever glorifies God, yes.
I kind of made a mistake. Well, not a mistake, but there's a better path I could have went down in this conversation. Here, he just understands good to be that which glorifies God. What I could have then done was bring up a type of Moore's open question argument, and not understand why, if something glorifies him, how that has any normative weight to, or why I should glorify God. But in any case, too, well, that end I could ask why, if I, defined good in terms of glorifying, like myself, for example, would he be interested or concerned with doing the good? And he's likely going to say no, and then we could just go like, why would I care to glorify him? He'd probably give responses that are naturalistic types of errors, naturalistic fallacies, that, well, he's the creator or whatever, and then we could just keep doing the open question, well, in virtue of what, of him being the creator, should I glorify him or whatever? But yeah, instead I go down this path, so whatever. Okay. What if we said that? Do you take it that the Shmolocaust glorifies God?
I take it that when God decreed that that thing happen, he decreed that it happened for his own good reasons and for his own self-glorification in the end, in the judgment of those who did it and in the salvation of those who were the victim.
So if they do glorify him, then you understand the Shmolocaust to be a good thing.
I understand that I understand that that thing is a good thing from God's standpoint, because he decreed that it happened. And I understand it to be a bad thing because it fails to conform to God's law, which applies to human beings.
Okay, well, biting that bullet would just be a reductio for many.
But I want to push the antithesis. Because in your worldview, if you are a naturalist, I don't want to assume, all of us are determined to do what we do by natural laws and natural effects, which would logically necessarily follow that what happened in Germany wasn't objectively wrong. It was just physical effects being done or physical effects being produced. And those actions of the guy with the ugly mustache were just physical effects. And the people who were victims were just people who were physical effects. I mean, your worldview doesn't have an argument or justification for saying that my worldview is wrong. I would be interested if you're a naturalist, how is any of those things wrong?
Yeah, so I'm not a naturalist, I'm not a determinist, and you can be a moral realist even with those two joint views.
Wait. Hold on then. So what are you then?
In what sense? Like, I might be many things.
Wait, I have a practice where I don't argue with people who don't have a position because there's no position to argue against. It's very easy, Monkey Boy, to not have a position and just criticize all positions that you hear. It's very easy to do that. It's like a guy
I'm
with his
just asking you
neighbor.
what you're at. Like, you're asking for
Yeah,
my
but
views in context to what?
but I'm gonna stand here and be criticized by you with regards to my worldview because you don't have a worldview for me to push back on. Because I don't know what your worldview is. You're
I
not a
understand.
determinist,
Yeah.
and you're not an are you an indeterminist? You're a naturalist? Indeterminist? No.
But now you're just like, you're throwing around a range of different views, and it's not clear which of them you're asking my position on.
All right, let me one by one. You're not a determinist. You already said that. Are you an indeterminist?
No.
Okay. Are you a naturalist?
No.
All right. What are you?
Well, if you're talking about theory of substance, I actually think theories of substance are just confused view. I don't actually think I'm probably what you would consider a quietist about substance. So I don't think substances exist. So I don't think the supernatural natural distinction is one that actually is meaningful. If you're just asking, am I committed to there being beings that are spatially unextended, then I don't believe there are any beings that are spatially unextended. I'm probably inclined to thinking all beings are ones that are spatially extended.
So, do you deny that there are universals and particulars, unity and diversity, or do you just hold to unity and universals in that all of us are just physical entities that are not distinguished from one another?
Well, I don't know what you mean by the unity stuff, but I don't use these Aristotelian concepts like particulars and universals. If by universal you just mean like the dogness or the essence of a thing, and then a particular is just some object.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, a partitioner in the set that satisfies that essence. I don't use that language. If all you're saying is that there's like types of things and that there's tokens of those types, then yeah, I agree. There are like, there's like the category dog and there's objects that are particular dogs. But I don't know what you mean by the unity stuff.
Okay, that's what I mean. You're just using different words. So categories and particulars. So the category of dogness and the particulars of dog. You believe that there are categories, right?
Sure.
Okay, are those categories physical?
No. The categories don't
Okay.
exist.
The categories don't exist on the physical realm or the transcendental realm, right?
Yeah, they don't exist at all.
Okay, so if dogness does not exist, how does Monkey Boy know what a dog is?
How do I know?
Yeah.
Well, we engineer these types of conventions to better appreciate certain things in our experience. So we make categories which are essentially these like types of sets that accommodate things with a relevant range of predicates. So we engineer definitions like dog, and what we understand to be the category of dog is anything that satisfies the relevant predicates to be placed in that set. So I know when something's a dog when I appreciate what it means for something to be a dog. And when some given object satisfies those predicates, I can say it's a member of the set.
So the set itself and the category itself in your worldview does not exist, but we know what the particulars of the thing that does not exist are.
Yeah.
Wow, man. I'm going to concede and say
But you know, most theists accept this too.
I am not as intellectually inept to argue against your positions, so I'm going to leave it there.
Wait, what do you
Monkey
mean?
Boy,
Most academic philosophers accept this view.
That's okay. I'm gonna leave it there. Okay. Have a good day, bro.
But
I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there. There's no way I can argue with a guy like that. There's no way. I do not think that I am more smart than I am. He's gonna tell me that the categories that we use to distinguish and establish a dog from something else, the categories don't exist, physically or transcendentally. Oh, wow. Wow. I mean, even the philosophers will agree with that stuff. I would tell those philosophers, man, we can't have a conversation because in my vocabulary, I use the words universal and particular. I don't use category and particular. I use universals and particulars. So a universal would be redness, dogness, humanity. And the particulars would be a red apple, a dog, or a particular human being. But I hold the position that redness and dogness and humanity exist on the transcendental level. And these are transcendental facts and principles that are universal. And we human beings recognize those facts and principles. And then we apply that which we know to particular expressions of those universal principles. But if you're going to say that redness and dogness and humanity does not exist in any realm, physical or transcendental, but yet we have particular expressions of things that don't exist. Now that's crazy. I'm sorry. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me. I'm sorry, man. Like, nah, I'm good. Maybe me and Monkey Boy will talk again tomorrow. I don't know, but I'm done there. I'm done.